Hi, this is Jaya. In this video, we shall see the summary of Chapter 3 Shakespeare's Sister from A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. Woolf was asked to speak on the topic of women and fiction, and her thesis was a woman must have money and a room of her own if she is to write fiction. Because only if you are financially independent, you need not worry about making money, and at the same time you should also have some space, a room of your own, meaning some space and time where you can sit and think and write, because this is not a mechanical job, this is very creative. And here actually Woolf exposes the gender consciousness that she believes actually crippled both the male and the female writers. And she says that most men derogate women and they do this only to maintain their own superiority. And she gives very convincing evidence about why genius has been infrequently flowered among women, why women have been always thought that they are not very intelligent. And moreover, she also gives a remedy for that. She says that women should be earning at least 500 pounds a year, and of course a room of one's own, her own space and some time for her, so that she can become a fiction writer. In chapter 3, she returns home disappointed. That is, the narrator is Virginia Woolf herself, and she returns home disappointed because she had gone to the British Library to do some research, but she was not able to get what she actually wanted because very little bit of truth was there. And she says that in history, they are only opinions, they are no opinions but only facts. History is something which records what has happened. So she says records not opinions but facts. And as a starting point, she thought that she will look into the lives of the English women during the Elizabethan period. And she says, I chose that period because that was one of the best periods where literary accomplishments surpassed other periods. And naturally, Elizabethan period is a time where Shakespeare plays were ruling the whole world. And she says that history turns up little about the legal rights of women in the early modern period, because earlier women did not have any legal rights at all. And the fact of her utter powerlessness strikes discordantly with the prevalence in literature of complex and strong female characters from ancient times to the present. She says that if you see literature, the characters which come there, the women are shown as though they are very intelligent and very strong words are spoken by them. And most inspired words and profound thoughts in literature all come from a woman's lips. But if you really see in reality in the society, women could hardly read. They can even hardly spell because they were not given proper education. And she was considered as the property of her husband. That is, a girl was brought up only to get married, and once she gets married, she belonged to her husband, and he had all the rights over her, and all she had to do was just listen to what her husband is saying. And in this light, the solution to the problem of trying to consumptionalize the Elizabethan women seems to be to pool the resources of history and fiction. So she started reading the fiction as well as she saw the records in the history, and she says that it would have been impossible for any woman to have written the plays of Shakespeare in the age of Shakespeare. Because during the age of Shakespeare, we know that even female characters are only played by male. And therefore, if there was another woman who was as intelligent as Shakespeare, she wouldn't have got the chances that Shakespeare got. And for that, to prove her point, she made up an imaginary character as Shakespeare's sister, and she named her as Judith Shakespeare. And she says that Judith also was much capable and gifted like Shakespeare, her brother, but receives no education, because in those days women are not educated, except that what she can create for herself in what free time she had. And actually she was the favorite of the father. She says she was the apple of her father's eye. But the family expected her to live according to the roles confirmed to women in the society, and therefore they never gave her any chance to develop her talent. And therefore, what happens is, because as a writer she will not be accepted, she writes in secret. And what she wrote, either she hides or she burns it, because if anyone sees it, she will have to face the consequences. And at a very young age itself, she'll be married away. And when she begs in the family to allow her to stay without marrying, she is chastised and beaten by her father. Her father considered her as a favorite, but when she refuses to marry, he beats her up. So, what happens is, just like how Shakespeare ran away, she also runs away, driven by the force of her own gift alone. That is, she runs away, and of course, she had that intelligence of Shakespeare, and she actually wanted to go into acting. But in that time, women were not allowed on the stage, so she only faced rejection and ridicule. They made fun of her. And so she takes up the job of a theatre manager, and she joins with him. And this theatre manager makes her pregnant. And then there is no other way for her to live, so she commits suicide. And this is how the life of a woman with Shakespeare's genius, that is, even if she had the intelligence of Shakespeare, might have been at that time. And she goes on to say that even Shakespeare's, any women in Shakespeare's day should have Shakespeare's genius. Definitely, she wouldn't have had the chances or opportunities to show her brilliance in writing. And in that age, if any woman showed herself as an intelligent person, she was either considered as a witch or lunatic, that is mad. And otherwise, women had to write in a man's name. That is, she had to never, she cannot reveal her name. She had to be anonymous. And that is the way most of the women started writing. They did not write in their own name. And then afterwards, she says about the women during the Renaissance, and she thinks about the work of producing a work of a genius and how the circumstances will conspire against it. And women had to cross so many obstacles, so many distractions, and so much of discouragements. And this is actually true even for a man. Even a man has to come across so many impediments to reach success. But when it comes to women, all these are more than a man. And actual fact is, she says that women don't have a room for her own unless her parents are very wealthy. Otherwise, she will not have a room of her own. And even in spending money, she will have to go and expect from others, either from a father or a brother or a husband or a son. That is the status of women. And therefore, she holds the mind of the artist as something which is undergoing discouragement, and it is always expecting the opinion of others and how they are going to justify her or they are going to judge her. And she says the mind of the artist must be incandescent. There must be no obstacle in it, no foreign matter unconsumed. Only this is the way we have to come out. And so, of course, nowadays days have changed. But here, when we see how women have struggled, particularly to become writers, we have to, when we see history, we can understand all these facts. And Virginia Woolf has really done a lot of research on this. And this is what comes in chapter 3. If you have anything more to write, please write it in the comment box. Like the video, share it with your friends. And if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe and support. Thank you.